Liebe Zuschauer, es geht weiter mit Teil 2.
Dear viewers, we continue with part 2 of the topic Build Composing Speed Art Film.
Nochmal persönlich, bis gleich. Heute kommt der zweite Teil.
Today the second part about speed art film is coming. I'll show you today how I incorporated the person there and how I used AI. I generated these eagles. There are two different ways, but I believe one way works better. And yes, well, there's not much more to tell. We are heading straight to the screen and we're starting with the second part on the speed art film. So let's get started. See you in a bit. Hey guys, and welcome to the second part of my speed art film Eagle Gorge. That's what I've named it now. I think in the last two films my picture didn't even have a name. And when the image is loaded into Stager, that was the final status of the last film. Then we arrive at this result. I have the picture already in Stager. Now it was created, opened in Photoshop, and this is how it all looks like. This is how it's delivered as a Photoshop file, and we get here another folder where here. So yes, such layers have, I'll fade it in now, and then we have it depicted here as color, and this is how you could, for example here, making selections. Yes, we could now, if we now fade this in, simply select the orange, and then we would have the cave as selected. I wouldn't need all this here though. That's why I'm going to delete all of this now. I usually do it this way. So in most cases when I work with it, we have a rendered image here, and then we have a rendered noise reduction layer here. I always opt for the noise reduced one as an alternative. Typically we say so, and then I will also delete the top. Then we can also delete the background color. We don't need that either. And now we are at this point here. So if we look at this with our eyes, hide, then it's the cave away and it's back again. And the great thing is we can now of course also here transform, move or whatever. Of course it's not a 3D plane anymore, it's now a 2D plane. Of course we can't continue the whole thing now. Turn, so turn to the other side. We can of course turn it around here, that's of course possible. Yes, and that's exactly what I would start with now. I have different pictures open now, I'm going to go through them now. Once I have the person I want to include, I don't have it yet. I mentioned in the last film, this is one of mine photographed person whom I saw somewhere sometime. These are the birds that I am installing here, and I actually generated them in Firefly, and I'll show you how I did that in a moment, like so. And yes, then we get started. First, I would now explore the cave. A little transformation. I go to free transform because I want a bit more. With the shift button pressed, I do it all, then I can't do it proportionally. Change, and I would like to pull it all down a bit more here so that I can see a bit more of the background image. I can't go now and pull the whole thing in like this. Here everything is gone now. We can only pull out now because it has been rendered like that. We can't change anything anymore. I like this. I confirm it with OK, and then I have already achieved that so far. Then I will convert the layer into a smart object. So convert it into a smart object. This way we can apply any filters and so on and naturally change them at any time. So, and we will do that now because I'm going into the raw filter. I would like to make a small change here now because everything here is too bright for me. I need a gradient here, and that's exactly what I'll do with the raw filter. So I go now here in the raw filter, camera raw. See you next time. And now I'm going to turn the whole picture a bit, make it darker. Of course, only the cave will now become darker, not the entire image. It's not even displayed. I'm going to be quite extreme now. Lower the exposure here, that should be enough. Yes, perhaps it's a bit too much, like this, and confirm it with OK. I don't want to do anything else here for now. So then I have also got a mask for this. It is now placed underneath, of course not here, up there on the level. Then I wouldn't completely mask them out, but now I only want to mask out the raw filter again because I don't want this darkening everywhere there. So I'm now going to my brush. I will choose the black color. Let me check what brush settings I have here. hardness on 0. That's exactly how it should be. And then I would now even go directly with 100%. 100% can also stay up. I'm now going to select my brush size on my drawing tablet here so that I can do this with my, you can set up the tablet here. And now I will just here bring out the edges at the edge because it's a cave. It should be dark inside. But we can imagine that the light is shining on it now, just like here. Here the light seems to shine on the edge. Now it seems to be on here and here then just on the edges. So we're going to do this around here. There should be no light at all, only on the edges, otherwise not. So, and here some residual light should still shine in, and that makes the whole story look much more three-dimensional. Now I would like to set up a color balance because I don't find the color of the cave quite right in the picture yet. So I'm going to go here on color balance, and all of this of course with a clipping mask here on my cave. I don't want this on the background image, and I'm going to adjust a bit more. Color in the heat, more like yellow brown. Wonderful, that may have been a bit too much for me, but we can also just reduce the opacity a bit. Yes, 60, maybe even a bit less. 50%. So in this area I'm going to set that we have a slight color change still in the cave. So now we need an additional light edge here. Yes, when the sun later comes from behind. As I said, it will be built in later. Then it's not enough that we just have a bit brighter at the front, but we need to see a proper light edge. Yes, how do we do this? Very simply, you could paint it in now, but we make it much easier. I double click on the layer here. Then I say here, I would like to have a glow inwards. Yes, it's kind of glow inwards. So I will now first make the whole thing a bit larger so we can see something here. Yes, overcrowding. We don't need that now, I believe. Let's have a look right away. Then I am now first reducing the opacity a bit. Still looks a bit weird. And now I am changing the fill method to color dabbing. Should work well. And now let's see. I'm going now before it looked like this, now it looks like this, and now we have a proper light edge. That's how easy it can be done. However, we can now also see that the whole thing naturally also here outside the cave, the whole story is oriented because this is a plain style. This is a light inward all around, and we have to remove that right away. Well, now let's make sure we set this right here. So I think I like this very much. Just really a glow on the edge. That's all we need now. I confirm with okay. We could of course give the whole thing a different color now. I'm trying with such a light one, yellow, so that we really only go a little bit into yellow. Of course that should only be minimal. Okay, you can barely see it, but the light has colored a bit yellow. And then I confirm this now with okay. Now we just need to make sure we get these light reflections here. Get rid of these light edges here on the edge, because we can basically start here now in the layer styles that we have set up here. We can't mask anything because we simply don't have any masks. This won't work. We need to apply these layer styles now, convert it into layers where we can then put a mask again. So for that we have to right click on this FX sign, and now we can say, I have to check it out myself here, just create it. So we click on it once, and now this node comes up. Some of the effects functions cannot be used for eBasics. Reproduce, we can confirm that with okay. So, and now we have all of this up here about our plane as plain boots, basically as a layer. It's no longer down here, we can't find it here anymore, but it has now been applied up here with a clipping mask to our cave. Yes, wonderful, and we can now put a mask on it, and now we can switch to our brush with black color. And now we can actually know, many don't know, that you can also redo layers with layers, or can convert it to layers and then hide it again with a mask. That's a little insider tip that not many people know. And now I can here on the edge, we see just delete this layer effect. Wonderful. It didn't happen everywhere, but only here where we really have the edge of our cave from our picture. We have a bit more here too. I definitely don't want to see this light source that I built in at the edge. So, and we can do this here. Also remove at the edge. Wonderful. Well, now we're here and we have this here, our effect. I'll show it on and off and then on again. Wonderful. Now we have such a nice light reflection here. So that we have order here now. I'm going to do it down here. The level with the shift key pressed. I mark the top here and now go to this folder. Then we have now created a folder or a group here and I'm going to call it cave. And already our layer structure looks neater again. And what I'm also going to do right now, I'm going to go to image here, mode, and we'll use the 16 bits here. They were created automatically by Adobe Stagger and I'm going to convert it to 8-bit now. We don't need a 16-bit image. And if I now integrate other images here, we will constantly get the warning that the color depth does not match the source image. We can prevent that this way. And now we move on to the person. Yes, Zoom. I want to generate that now and I'm going to free up my schedule. So let's get started. We're going to cut out the person. It's very easy by just taking our object selection tool now and just wait a moment until everything here has been recognized. We can already see that everything is recognized individually, even this bag. I don't want that, of course. And while we're now in this object selection tool, we can now use this tool we have here. Also put up something like this, such a selection, and then we can select everything at the same time. If I now here once, I go out of the tool, I go to the move tool, then we see that not just the person without a bug was selected, but all at once. Now I'm going to put a mask on it. Zach, the person is on leave. Let me check if we have any disturbances here. Yes, the whole thing is a bit French, cut out here at the pants. There you can see a bit in the background, the bushes in the background. That's not a problem. We can mask it out later if it bothers me. I'll just take it as it is. We don't need to change it much. The only thing I'm doing now, I'm going to apply the mask now. Just apply a mask. I don't need that anymore. Next, I'd like to draw the person in sharp detail because we started our image in sharp detail last movie. So I'll just do it easier again with Luminar. Then I have the same sharpness style, which I've also applied to my wallpaper. I'll make the whole thing a bit bigger so I can judge it properly. Often edit. And now the person has wandered out of the picture for me to sharpen it perfectly. And then I'll switch to medium. I think that's enough. Or should we also go to high? I expect, let's see what happens. The whole thing takes a bit and takes a very long time. Yes, no, that's enough. So I would say the person has become a lot sharper. I'm going to take a quick look here, before and after. Yes, take a look at that sharpness and how natural it looks. Absolutely. I'll take it this way. Apply. Wonderful. And the next person also prepared for our picture. So, and I'm going to grab this person right here with my shifting tool and pull this whole thing in. And bam, there we have the person. And of course you have to look first where the right size is. Of course that's a matter of taste, but I'm going to mirror the person horizontally first via edit. Then about transforming mirror horizontally, I would like to have it the other way around. I think the person is still a bit too small, so Command T. Make the people a bit bigger now. I think I like it better this way. It's always a matter of taste. And of course, it also has to do with perspective. But here we have nothing to orient ourselves. The cave could be huge. It could also be very small. I could also put the person in here. That would also be true. Yes, where should one pin that? But actually the person naturally wants to be present here in the picture. Yes, very important. Now it is clear. The person is definitely too bright here. They are coming out of the cave. It's dark, so obviously the person here has to be darker. We can easily do that by simply taking the tone correction here with a clipping mask on the person. Now it will only start on the person. So I'm going to move my layer structure up a bit and bring this down a bit so I can see a bit more. This is all too tight, and now I'm going to darken the person a lot. I always like to do this first with this slider here And then I go back here, which makes it all a bit more contrasty again. So now we need to check if it stays this dark. We can certainly change this at any time. Let's go to the mask level with the black brush. If we turn on the light here, we have 100% opacity. I'll make the brush a bit smaller and get a bit closer. I'll get the light out again here because the person here needs to be lit by the sun. So we need to undo the mask here as well. I'm going to use a larger brush and go from far out into the picture. And this transition will be nice and soft. Of course, I want all the edges to be nice and hard. So exactly, but there needs to be a bit more light here. Down here, maybe take a small brush at the edge and bring out the light a bit at the edge. And now, of course, here in the pants, it's fully in the light here. So by using the clipping mask, we can now just paint generously in here. Nothing happens. Here I'll make it a bit smaller. Here he gets another beam of light. We're now working with the natural light, so to speak. It was on the picture anyway. We just made it darker and are now simply bringing back the original brightness. So here I'm just going to the very front edge. So I would like to have another adjustment layer of the color balance type with a clipping mask on my person because I want to color the person a bit more. Have it a bit more yellowish. Yes, do I now have a cutting mask? Indeed I do. So it still does not really fit into the picture here. We'll see. Before like this, after like this, did it get a slight yellowish or even almost brownish tint? So then it fits in here quite well now, and now we need a shadow. I do it like this. I go now under the person, and now I'm going to create a new level here. So about the cave and under the person, because the shadow has to be under the person. And now I'm going to paint the core shadow first. I generally do this in normal mode, then I take a flattened brush, which can be used wonderfully here. Always make bigger. Then you see that he's lying here on the ground. Yeah, that's what I always do when I incorporate a shadow. So we are going to need now a black color and opacity. I will take it like this, 14-15%. And now I go under here, and now I'm painting into shadow here with a slightly larger brush. And now I'm painting under the shoes. It's logical. The person is now cut out and I'm painting under the shoes. And not on the shoes, I now paint a core shadow. Well, this takes a bit. I'm only painting with a low percentage. I'll see if anything happens at all. Yes, we can already see without and with. We now get, I'll show again very briefly. Pay attention to the shadow. Without and with shadow, we now slowly get a shadow in here at the bottom. So a diffuse shadow is about to be added here. But first the person needs to stick to the ground, so it must be here at the bottom. Definitely be darker under the shoes. I'm also putting the shoe right on the edge, so even darker. Then it matches better with the core shadow. We definitely have it darker here anyway. First or next, when I'm building the diffuse shadow, it means I'm putting another empty layer on top of my core shadow. However, now I am going, and this layer I will then into, I don't even need to go there. I'm now putting this layer into multiply, and then I will, while this layer is multiplying with a gray brush, specifically medium gray, so set to 128 RGB, then we have a medium gray. And now I am going to be generous directly with 100% opacity. Now install this diffuse shadow here. Just off the cuff, I don't think we need to think too long about what it should look like here. He simply has to cast a shadow here now. He's got a bit of luggage on him now, so it should get a bit bumpy at the back here. No one can comprehend what the shadow should look like. Really, by no means. It could continue in the back, depending on where the light is coming from. I'm going to take a bigger brush. Let's reduce the opacity a bit more. And I'm going to click in here again so that we get a bit darker here, but get a smooth transition. Here too I will need to add a bit more There also need to be some diffuse shadows. Yes. If we now look at it from a distance, this can be a perfectly normal natural shadow. No one can tell in this picture. And now, of course, we also need to put the shoe on the bottom side here. There shouldn't be much light getting there. I would need to darken it a bit. Right here at this spot. That would be illogical. Now I'm going to put this on top, because I don't want to reach the ground with it. So put an empty layer on top. I press the Alt key. I go between these two layers and click on it once. And then the whole thing becomes a clipping mask. And everything I do now, I do just focus on the person. However, I will now make the brush round again. I'll set the size down a bit directly and do the whole thing with less opacity. And of course, black is also very important. As we are now working in normal mode, all I want is just the foot at the edge, meaning the shoe. Just make it a bit darker around the bottom. Well, that's enough. Of course, it must not turn black. So now ihr could also with one make the tone correction darker. So up here is the shoe way too. It's bright, but here at the edge, light needs to shine again. These are the subtleties that are really important for it to look realistic later. Yes, I would say the person is fully integrated. We'll naturally group it all together. So mark the top level. Then go down here and now mark the lowest one with the shift key. Right click. Nonsense, right click. What am I talking about? Here, just on the group, much easier. And we'll call this person. And we're done. We've got the person in here. So, if the person is installed here like this, I'll go closer. Because I think I can see from the distance that there's something from the background, from the old background. Yes, I see there's still something green here. It doesn't really belong there. Okay, that wouldn't stand out here right now, I think. Because the back is also green, but this on the shoe, that bothers me. Not a problem at all. I can now just put a mask on the group of the person. And now I can simply, with black paint and a naturally slightly smaller brush, I can now erase this whole thing with a soft brush. Not erase, but mask. That's how we have to say it correctly. And just like that, this is gone. She saw it in between earlier. This naturally has to disappear. Yeah, okay, I could fix this again with the clone stamp, because there's some inconsistency here. I'm leaving it as it is now. If one wanted to be very precise, of course, one could still retouch it away. I'm just going to leave it as it is now, so the movie doesn't get too long. And of course, I still see that here in those areas. It needs to be darkened a bit afterwards. It's fine here, but here it's actually too bright. But we'll do that as soon as I've incorporated the birds. Okay, so where we are on the topic, the birds, they're up next. I've already opened them here. This is the person now, but here I already opened the 3 birds that I have decided to include here in the picture. I'll briefly show you how they were created. Before Adobe had this Firefly. Otherwise I would have gone and bought it from Adobe stock. Or I would have gone to the zoo and tried to photograph them. Yes, there are various ways to implement this. We're doing this today with Firefly. Now I'm going to click on this through my Creative Cloud, Adobe Firefly. Yes. And then I would go to text to image here. I say, okay, let's generate a text to an image. Yes, and now you can choose what to write here. I'm going to write, eagle sits on a rock with the... now I've made a typo. With the back to the viewer, no, to, let's say, to the camera. Let's see what comes out of it. Generate, and so that's what I did with the flying birds. I wrote in eagle flying through the air, and I also wrote in backlight, and then I had the result. So there we have it. That's exactly how I wanted it, yes. He is sitting with the rock. No, not with the rock. He is sitting on a rock with his back to the camera, and they would all have been great. We could have chosen this one. Then I would click on this and say we're just going to download now. Yes. Then we come here again to such an area where we are informed about urban rights. Yes, I can confirm that. And then I downloaded the picture here and could now open it through my download folder. That's how easy it is. Okay, then we will close this now and we're going back to Photoshop because I have already opened the eagles here. Yes. And even then I would proceed in such a way that I simply run through the object selection tool, which by the way is also AI based. I would select that and the eagle is selected here. I click in here once and then we also generated a selection and will then put a mask on it, and that's it down here. This ribbon here, I can remove it later, it's no big deal. I'll apply the mask directly. I can tell the selection looks damn good. So just a mask, right click on it, then apply select, and we have already completely cut out the eagle. With the move tool I take this bird and we pull this one here into my picture. That's the wrong picture. That's where he needs to go. And now puts it here like this. We can already see, okay, he is probably a bit big. He shouldn't be this big. I'm saying command and now, and we'll do it all here. Make it a little smaller. Then we place this here and lay on, or rather first confirm a bit and then simply put a tonal correction over here. With clipping mask, let's make it a bit darker right now. Something like this. I want a bit more contrast. Then I will also pull this a bit to the right and then with a black brush. And what we now have here is an opacity. Yes, of 100%. We can leave it like that. And we also have a soft edge. I'm going to paint the light back in now. Where I want it to be the light we had anyway, just like with the person. And then I would, nice to put such a light edge on it. The back, it has to be completely in the shadow. But down here, these are really the details that are very important. On the edges there, we really need to have a light reflex. Oh yes, and just as well the light could also fall into the feathers now. This should come through a bit. There should be a light edge here. Yes. If I do this in real operation, of course, I would make everything a bit more tidy. And then I would just like, I don't want to make it too long, the whole thing. I would just like this here. Also darken the feet a bit more here, just as the shoes are darkened here, which will then also incorporate a core shadow and a diffuse shadow. This would, as I said, exceed the scope. Now I would like to show a special feature again. If I install another bird here, one that flies around. Let's take this one now. And we will also cut him out now, very quickly, via the object failure tool. And he is already cut out. I'm clicking in here once. I'm laying a layer over here. So the bird is selected or cut out. With the moving tool, it comes into our image. Zek. No, that's another wrong image. Where is it now? There it is. And pull it in. So now we see, okay, it really doesn't fit here at all. And T, I'm going to select the bird, or rather, I'm going to do it differently. I'm going to apply the mask first. I don't need it anymore. Just apply a mask. So, and now I go to edit, free transform. I'm going to make the bird smaller for now. Of course, this is also really free choice. How big do I make the eagle now? Of course, we could also make such unnatural eagles that are now so huge here. It's a fantasy picture after all. Here I just do it like this. Conform with. Okay, so if we still have some light edges here, that might be too strong. Yes, this edge that is here now. Actually, I don't think it's bad. But we're going to make a quick tonal correction. Or how do we do that? No, we'll do it differently. I'm going right. Click to convert the whole thing into a smart opaque first. Convert to smart array, and I'm just going to get started into the camera raw filter. And if we now bring the bird a little closer, I would here take down the exposure quite a bit and take out the lights a little bit. They are a bit too bright for me. The bird could fit. It should roughly match. And I confirm it with okay. Okay. Yes, that didn't accomplish much. The good thing now is that I made it a smart object. I simply go back into the camera raw filter with a double click, and I really think it's great that you can do this now. I just pull the whole thing a bit darker like this until it suits me sometime. I could potentially turn up the lights a bit now, click on it once more, and then it looks like this. Works wonderfully when you use the camera raw filter, especially if you turn it into a smart object beforehand. So, and if we now say, okay, but this light edge here, it somehow bothers me. Yes, I would actually leave it. But with the other bird, if we were to incorporate it now, it would bother me. I know this because I have already taken the picture. But now I would like to create a mask again, where I can, if I can make changes with selections and masks, we do it like this. I have already deleted the mask I had before. By clicking on the image while holding down the command key, I get this selection again. And over here, I just put a layer mask on it. So, and now we have also created the bird here on the layer mask. Let's say it's painted white. And now we can wonderfully continue working with selection and masking. I usually like to do it this way. I always look for this dialog up here via selection and then select and mask here. Don't know this new masking mode, this big screen that we then get, but I like this small field. But if we click on this now, we get this new mode again, but we have to press the shift key now and now. Click on select and mask. And now we get this little dialog here, and I find it much nicer. Now, we have to select on layer level, so we can see our layer again. Otherwise, we cannot really know what we're doing here. And now I can brilliantly edit this light edge by saying, I'll move the edge a bit inward. Then it disappears a bit. We won't achieve anything externally because there is nothing left that could be brought back. I can soften the edge a bit. And now we already see what is happening. Wonderful, this white glow here. It disappears. Of course, we can also up here achieve a little more by rounding off. That also looks great when we have it as far as we like it. I click on OK and done. Now, of course, we could continue. We could go here again. Consider a color balance with a clipping mask and slightly adjust the light. I think it's a bit blue. I prick, then I'll do it here now. Pull the whole thing more into yellow, or better the other way around. Let's see. Yes, I think this fits better. It's too yellow and I wanted it a bit more blue. That's how I wanted to say it actually. Yes. And of course we could also build the second bird here in the same way. So, and of course we don't need any shadows there because they don't stand anywhere. They fly through the air. There can't be any shadows. But here we obviously have to build our shadow now. So, and the end of the movie, I'd like to show you now. In here we show yes, and we go back to this picture. Now it is a bit brighter here, but as I showed you in the other picture, I want to darken this whole thing a bit on the edge. And I want to include another effect. I'll show you here. The sun, there's the sun, and we've also darkened everything a bit at the back. How did I do that? I'm just going to delete this layer now with Shift, Alt, Command and E. I can summarize everything I have below to a level above. Shift, Alt, Command and E. Keep everything pressed at the same time. Then we have a merge layer here. And then I go first now into the camera raw filter. No, I'm quitting again. Of course, we first need to make it a smart object. Right click to convert to smart object. Now we go to the filter. Can one use raw filters? I find it works better here. Of course, you can do it in Luminar, but I'm always more familiar with this than in Luminar. I take a linear gradient here, and now, of course, I can back here, bring in a little more darkness. It should not be that bright far back. It should be almost completely black. I confirm that. Yes, everything is pretty much okay here, and up here everything is also more or less okay. But at the back we still have too much light. Okay, I'm confirming this now, and next we're going, yes, we have our gamma raw filter here now. And now I would attach again, go into the filters and then Skylum software Luminar neutral, click on it, And now we will achieve our final look by, for starters, clicking on edit here, and I am going to install a sun for now. For that we go down here under creative to sunbeams, and I first have to place the sun where I want it, so I click here once to place the sun center, and now it's up here somewhere. I'm going to put it down here in the middle of the picture, and now I'm going to quantity first and move the whole thing around the height, and now we see wonderfully, now we get the light rays. Why am I doing this now and not directly at the beginning before I installed all this? You can see already these effects here, these sunbeams in Luminar, they also consider objects, and the beams, they otherwise, yes, if I would have demonstrated it now, just placed over the whole picture. And so, but the birds are flying around here. They accounted for flying, and the rays are then broken there in a natural way. We get a much better result than if we had done it before we started our montage. All right, now we can take a look. We can now adjust the amount of light or the length of the sun rays here. I might not make them quite so long. Yes, of course, now creativity is called for. This is purely a matter of taste, how everyone wants it. That's why I won't complete all of this here now. I will simply build some sun rays in here now and just leave it at that. And then you can really let loose here and make unlimited settings. This is not supposed to be a Luminar Neo. Would be too great, but just try out what you want to do here. Now you can go to develop. We can make the light a little bit brighter here again, in case the image is too dark for us. Actually ticking, that looks much better. We could maybe take the lights down a bit or make them higher or whatever. Yeah, and I'm just going to apply it now, just as I have set it up here. And the picture is done. And now let's go to the bridge and let's go to my final result here. And that's what I have here now. Here it is, finally the result. I just see, yes, in retrospect, when I look at the picture now, it could actually be a bit darker down here in the corner and up here too. But yeah, I'd say we're done with the picture now. I hope you enjoyed this. You might like a photo montage, and maybe you'll replicate something like this. Maybe you'll take your own camera somewhere, go to the city and take pictures of people. Of course, always so that you can't see the faces, and just incorporate them into your composites. And just use Firefly to invent things. Not whole images, you can't boast about that later, but details, I think you can incorporate them superbly. Create it yourself with AI. In that sense, I wish you a few more nice days, and we'll see each other again soon. Until then.